Welcome to the Gravel Lot, the place where bikes are for everyone.
The Gravel Lot podcast is presented by Be Free Ride Bikes Apparel, providing a fully customized cycling apparel experience to provide you and your team the attention to detail and personal touch that you deserve.
And also brought to you by Grimpour Brothers Coffee, offering handmade coffee roasted weekly in small batches to give you the finest quality coffee to start your day. Choose their subscription service and earn your free bag of coffee today.
Also by BioWheels Fit Studio and Workshop in Cincinnati, Ohio, offering you a full host of bike fitting services intended to provide the cycling enthusiast with the most efficient, comfortable, and sustainable bike fit they have ever had.
And by the Ritual All Natural Skincare, providing small batch, handmade chamois cream, custom blended for your team or shop right here in Cincinnati, Ohio. Contact us today to learn more.
And by Hand Up Gloves. Great gear, better times. Providing a wide range of apparel for bikes, snow sports, and golf in multiple designs and fits to let your personality shine.
Our goal with the Gravel Lot is to inspire cyclists of all stripes to ride bikes, share their story, and have fun. We love all bikes and anyone who wants to ride them. So no matter where you sit on the spectrum of bikes, we'll always have a place for you in the Gravel Lot.
And now, the hosts of TGL, John Woolry and Doug McClintock.
Hello and welcome back once again to the Gravel Lot, the official podcast of really all cyclists. I think we like to include everybody in this. But really, we love storytelling, and above all else, TGL is the place where no matter what ride you are on, you will have a home here in the Gravel Lot with us. Me, I'm John. That guy, let me make sure I point in the right direction. That guy's Doug. And we're so glad that you found us. So whether you're an existing Pebble or you are new to the show, welcome. Welcome. And if you believe in what we're doing, click the subscribe button, hit the like button, notifications, whatever platform you're watching this from or listening to it from. Do the thing that makes you get it every week and remind you to listen to it or watch it every week, because that would mean a lot to us. But we love sharing this with you guys. So you guys are our friends and we like making this show for you. So we want to keep doing it and we want to keep having that interaction. So with that out of the way, let's get right into things today. First, I'm going to say for today's guest, or for Doug and I, really, leave your comments below. And if you want to, you can go head over to Patreon and learn how to support our show. Because, one, I think it's important to note that this is a passion project for Doug and I. It is a lot of work to make this thing, but we can't do this without your support. So, yes, we have some amazing partners and things like that, but this show is almost wholly funded by our Patreon supporters. So if you guys really, really love what we're doing and want to be a part of it on a bigger level, I encourage you to head over to Patreon and become a supporter today.
Yeah, I mean, it is, as John said, we're delighted to have you, but yes, we do have to figure out how to continue to keep these purple and green and blue lights on behind us. And so that's part of it. And we appreciate it. So if you're going to go over to Patreon and become a patron, that's awesome. Whatever level you want to, 50 cents, $1, whatever. I think 50 cents might get eaten up by fees, but even then it's a gesture. That's what's important.
Yeah.
Right?
We haven't set up, like, Patreon's real big on setting up tiers and doing different offerings based on tiers.
No,
that's not about that life. Like,
no.
If you guys want to support us, you can. If you want to give us a quarter every month,
cool,
awesome.
Because everybody approaches this sport differently, and we appreciate everybody being engaged and helping us do that. We've got a new phone number. If you want to call and harass us, you can do so. 513-400-5577. Call, heckle us. Do whatever it is that you wish on that call. If it's funny enough, maybe it'll end up on the show. I have the ability to play clips. So do that, and we'll get back to you on that space. And as always, as we asked you last week and are asking you yet again, if you have guest suggestions, people who are doing awesome things in your community, please reach out to us with them. We really, really would appreciate them. And obviously, we want to make sure we have the most diverse group of guests on this show. So if you know people who are people of color or queer folks or anybody in different spaces doing something different, whatever they're doing, that's who we want to have on the show. We really want to broaden that reach and open people up. So send those suggestions to us as soon as you can. So without other way, John, how has your ride been this week?
I've been thinking about this all day because I knew you were going to ask me. I really don't have a lot. Yeah, I know. It's kind of what happens every week. It's part of how you and I interact with each other. This is probably, and I know I keep saying it week over week, but like, as things start to open back up and feel more normal, like, this was probably the first week in 15 months that I felt like, okay, let's do this. Like, I did a thing Saturday where there was a lot of people there, and there were a lot of situations that I was in at this sporting event where I was very, very happy I had my vaccine, because I was like acutely aware of how, how much personal space I had. But
Sure.
It's something that, like, it's a car race, something I love dearly. It was a huge, like, emotional thing for me to be able to go there and to experience that race live. And it was just like one more kind of checkbox in a series of checkbox that whether I've been doing it myself, my wife and I have been doing it, her dad, my parents, you and I, whatever those things are, like, moving more towards feeling a little bit more normal. And I think even further than that, like, if you guys haven't watched it yet, we released a video on Wednesday, I think, right? The day after the day after our show last week, or before the podcast, whenever you guys consume this content, about our experience at the Black Fork Gravel Grinder, and have gotten a lot of really, really good and fun feedback from that. So we hear you. I hear you. I want to make more of those as well. Doug and I are already kind of game planning how we can do more of that stuff to bring that sort of experience a little bit more on a different level, without feeling like it's another thing that we have to work on. But it's cool to make content and have you guys respond and give fun feedback and say that you really enjoyed something like that. So if you haven't watched it yet, go to our YouTube page, watch the Black Fork review with Doug and I, where we ride part of it but walk a lot of it. But it's it was a great experience, because it's I haven't had that quality time with my bike where I've been able to take my bike on a walk.
Let's be clear. It was an experience. You can grade out how we felt during at different points in time. It's great.
Take your bike on a walk. You'd be surprised at what that brings.
But it was an experience.
Yes.
And
a great one.
Yeah.
What about you, Doug?
I played D&D in person with my friends for the first time in over a year, and that was super awesome. That was last night, so I'm still kind of stoked on that. It was sweet.
I don't think it can be understated how important that is.
No,
you're awesome. Talking about it very fast, but I know you've been talking about it for a couple months now, about how excited you are.
Like, we've seen each other through the box, right? And that's been good, but it just changes when everybody's in the same room. And it was good to see my friends. Everybody's vaxxed, and we were able to have snacks together. And getting glaring matches across the table for our characters. It was a lot of fun. I missed my friends, and it was really good to see them. So shout out to all of them. It was a good time. And yeah, like things are starting to feel like we're getting to a new normal space, and gives me hope because been working on a lot of wedding stuff. So really fired up for that. And it sounds like everybody who's coming is already vaccinated. So that's pretty dope. So I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, that's good. All that's like a very positive. How was the ride this week?
Yeah, and that's okay. I mean, we should have some of those.
It's been kind of gray and gloomy for like the last couple months. I feel like we've just been
the sun's
that
out.
helps a lot. Yeah, I mean you can see it in my window over here. Like I've got in my basement, you can see that the sun is coming through in my basement.
Camber's mad grumpy tonight. She's just down there making tons of noise. I apologize. See, right there.
Yeah, on cue. She's good. She's well trained.
Yes, not really. Let's be clear. So we are going to make sure to get any of your AMA content comments with our guest this week into the show at the end of the show. So without any further ado, I do want to bring along our guest this week. Our guest is probably one of our favorite people in the CX paddock. John and I have had the pleasure of hanging out with this guy in the cyclocross paddock and causing mad ruckus and having a good time. That's why we love having him on the show. He originally joined us back in the summer of season 2, and so we're back this time to catch up and find out what's been going on with him in his personal life, kind of the entire Alpha Bicycle Groove Subaru team and what's going on in their world, because as you may know, he is the manager, and maybe we'll get like some hot burrito tips or something, and he can throw those in for us like he did when we were up in Wisconsin. Adam Rachubinski, welcome back to the Gravel Lot.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Dude, it is awesome to see your face. We've been chuckling beforehand in the green room and just kind of chatting, and it's been good to catch up just a little bit on that space. But I know all the Pebbles will be excited to hear from you. So, how are things in the mountainous land of Colorado? I saw some people in Colorado got snowed today.
Yeah, it snowed last night. It's raining right now, which is not awesome for the bicycle business or the bicycle riding. But no, it's cranking right along. Season's here for sure.
Yeah, you guys are hot and heavy in that space. So in case folks you don't know Adam, you can go back and check his show from season 2. I think it was like episode 24 or 29, I forget offhand. But go back and check it out, get a little bit about Adam and his kind of growth into cycling. But you may not know, Adam owns Alpha Bicycle, which you've got 2 shops, right, Adam?
Yeah, so we have the traditional retail shop. We had 2 retail shops, and we closed one of them and reopened it as a studio, which is where I'm at right now, which is service focused, and we do a bunch of retool fit. And yeah, it's been open for a few months now. It's been a hell of a ride. It's pretty cool.
Cool space. Closing a business and then reopening it during a pandemic. No big deal. Supply shortages, all of that stuff. And we kind of like our takeaway when we talked through this with Cody Kaiser, you guys can go back a couple weeks ago and listen to that one. He was very calm and blasé about how he's dealt with and how his bike shop has dealt with the pandemic kind of start to finish.
That might be partly Cody.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think it's important to kind of calibrate, because he is a lot more calm about a lot of things. Like I was getting stressed out while he was talking about it so calmly, of like all of these things that I know are moving pieces. So can you walk us through your last, let's call it 14 months as bike shop owner, in terms of what have you seen through the pandemic, and kind of what have some of the things that have been struggles or things that have come out as wins for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously more people on bikes is a win for sure.
Always.
100%.
The struggle with it is just what everybody dealt with. I mean, it was how do you keep your staff safe in the beginning for sure. And until we kind of came up with those procedures, it was uncharted water for everybody. And then, nobody knew what to expect. So we were kind of taking it, month by month. And I kept on telling the guys, it's like, we're going to be a little conservative because I just don't know when it's going to stop. and it just never did. I mean, it got to the point where, after an unbelievable, April, May, June, inventory started to run low, and we had in August, I think we had like 6 bikes on the floor, between 2 stores.
Okay, so if it's a small store, that's one thing, but what's a normal stocking level for you?
Between the 2 stores, we would probably have 110, 120 bikes.
Yeah, that's a little bit less.
See, that's why I asked the question.
Yeah. And and at the same time, we had this just huge demand on the service side of it, and so we were working till there was multiple nights and then turn into mornings where I would be there till 2:00 in the morning. And just, pallets of bikes would come in, and literally people are standing on the curb underneath the tent because we're monitoring the flow, and they would just go up and put their hand on a box and say, I want this one. And you'd write their name on it, and they would come back the next day and pick it up. And we would just bust them all out. Which people are like, that's great. But at the same time, it's stressful because we're a small shop, and we were really, we want to do it right. And we want to make sure people have the right bike, the right size, and that they're going to enjoy the experience. Otherwise, they're not, going to become cyclists long term. So that was stressful for sure. And then our neighbor at one of our stores was a physical therapist, and they wanted our space. They had kind of, come and gone a little bit through the pandemic. Their business was closed. It was back open. They had this huge demand. And we're looking at it as, hey, we have 2 spaces. We have the inventory of, not even 1 space. And we have, a staff that we're going to burn out if we keep out at the space. So it just made a lot of sense that they bought us out of our lease, and we pocketed, we did well on that deal. And we used that as a down payment on a space that we bought, which is now the studio. And the studio doesn't have any bikes on the floor. It's just service and parts and retool. And so it alleviates the demand on the employees from a service side, and puts all that bike inventory in one spot. It was a win on all fronts.
That's cool. Everybody's pivoting, right? Like you're pivoting, everybody's pivoting. That's just what people are trying to do in this space.
But was this idea kind of bouncing around in your head early before COVID came around, or is this something that generated from COVID?
No, this is a model that I've had in my mind for the last 4 or 5 years, honestly. And you guys know my mind's always running, and it was really I wanted to find the right people to do it with me. I'd reached out to guys like Doug Sumi, who works with our team, and Chris McGovern, who's obviously awesome mechanic and been around the scene for a while, and guys like that I wanted to have in a space like this. And kind of everybody was pretty happy where they were, and it ended up that this was just the right space for me to be in. So it's just me here. It's my kind of, the guys at the shop call it my clubhouse, but because I just kind of come and get my work done, and it's what I enjoy doing. And after 23 years of being in the bike industry now, it was the thing that relit the fire,
And it's interesting because I think back to when the 3 of us first met, and it was in Mitch's shop right up the road here in Madeira at BioWheels, and he was just at that point transitioning away from being primary retail and more focused on studio work, retool guru, inserts, bike fits, all of that stuff that is like the higher touch pieces. Because he got to the same point of like, I've been doing this retail thing for so long that it's the carousel, the merry-go-round. You just keep doing it and you never really get ahead. Whereas the service piece of it is you can't replace a good bike fitter. You can't replace a good mechanic. Like those are the things where you establish those lifelong customers and those lifelong relationships.
Like becoming a patron at a bar that's your regular, right?
Yeah.
That relationship.
Yeah.
And I think
so I think where I'm going with that is I think from your perspective, as much experience as you have and as much knowledge as that you are able to bestow on people, I think that makes a lot of sense for you to kind of get away from the day-to-day grind of the retail piece of it and start to focus on the higher touch piece of it and being able to create those customers that will keep coming back to you for life.
Yeah, and it's a cool, scenario because it allows me, it's by appointment only. And so it allows me to, be gone with the team in the fall and spend some time doing that stuff. It's very one-on-one. And so, there's a full bar and a bunch of coffee stuff in here, and it's nicer than my house. So it's like it's a place where people want to hang out, and everybody, like, the first thing people say when they walk in the doors every time is, wow, this is a bike shop. No, it's not a bike shop. It's just an experience. And it just so happens that I work on your bike while you're having that experience. So it's a cool model, and it fits a need, and being by appointment, you come with your bike, you leave with your bike. So it keeps the enthusiast riding, and it's really fun to be able to put out those fires for people. I broke a spoke the day before my big race and I need it done. It's like, yeah, cool.
You can make an appointment. Yeah, I think that's neat because you're giving people another option that doesn't really exist in the market in that specific way. Oh, you really want to get in here? This is how it's going to be. But you will have my attention. It's giving all those years of being able to do crazy fast repairs in the pits and things you needed to do. Be like, oh yeah, I can smash. It's like flat rate for you, right? Yeah. But you also have the company of having an awesome person with you who you're trying to shepherd through this process. But during all of this stuff, so if people weren't following along on social media, you had a vehicle enter your shop, and not because you decided to turn it into.
They didn't make an appointment.
Yeah,
they did not make an appointment.
Yeah, exactly. There's a different kind of could be a good model. Just have to structure it like one of those liquor barns, right? Where you pull in and you get your liquor, you take the bike off the rack. But this is not what your shop was set up for at the time, right? Like when did you have this very tragic series of events that happened to the business side of things?
So it actually happened twice last year. On one night, there's been systematic break-ins in Denver and in a lot of communities in bicycles, and we were cased, and they hit what we call our Denver Tech Center store. So a store that's on the kind of middle of town. And then they knew we'd be preoccupied after the alarm went off, and they went straight over and hit our other place.
Whoa. Straight over?
Yeah. Like they were hit 30 minutes apart from each other.
I thought that was like a day lapse or a 2-day lapse. Holy crap.
No. So I'm in the store that had been broken into first, talking to the police, and I get another call from ADT, and they're like, your alarm's going off. I'm like, yeah, I know, I'm standing there. And they said, well, we need your security word. And the security words are different for the two stores. And so I'm like, I give them the security word, and she's like, no, that's not it. I'm like, yes, it is. I'm standing in the store, and it ended up that it took, 3 or 5 minutes for it all kind of dawn on me. But yeah, they hit the other one. And so we lost like 11 or 12 bikes at that time, maybe a little bit more. That was, about $60,000 worth of inventory when inventory was already tight. Normally you just kind of chalk that up to business, and you're like, yeah, it sucks to get woken up in the middle of the night, and I have insurance for a reason. But we were getting bikes stolen that we couldn't replace. And then about 2 months later, middle of the night, somebody just we had taken precautions, obviously, and kind of reinforced our security even more so. And they decided that they were just going to bypass all that and drive a van through a store again. So we were, hit the second store another time. So, and they hit it so hard that we reinforced the door with a kind of steel spike going into the cement slab. And that hit it. And in the video, you can see that the van hits it and bounces off of the door, actually. And then they hit it so hard again that they ripped the whole door frame right out of the building.
Holy mac.
And they took the last 5 full suspension bikes that we had. So it was that's when we got down. That's when we got down to 6 bikes.
They catch these fools?
Jesus, yeah.
What'd you say?
You catch these fools?
Mm-mm. No, there's no catching them. So
good Lord. Well, I mean, and you said it in there, and like that, like I now understand why I thought it was days apart, is because I didn't see that it was both stores on the first time. I was so shocked by it. It was both, and then there was a delay. And you said it in that conversation right there, was that, you know, you have insurance for a reason, and it's great that you do, but it is an extra stressor in an already tough time. And that was fairly early on. So we were all still trying to figure this thing out and get through this period of time. And on top of that, and changing your store models and going through the pandemic, like other things were happening. It was the spring, fall, like spring, summer to fall of what should have maybe been a cross season, but ended up being something bizarre.
Yeah.
And you manage, you know, one of the top, if not the top development team in the United States in Alpha Bicycle Group Subaru. Like, you're trying to put athletes into events.
Yeah.
How did that, like, how did you manage that process? Because I know you're very hands-on and you're an emotional person. You're connected to people. How did you start thinking about managing that process when you realized, you know, later in the summer that absolutely nothing was going to happen?
Yeah. So we went like business as usual. We just, you know, what I told the athletes is, and all of our sponsors, that we fully expect that there, you know, will not be a season, but we're going to be prepared if, you know, we wake up tomorrow morning and all of a sudden this thing's gone and everything's back to normal, you know? So the athletes were expected to train, and, you know, we had everything ready, you know, bikes built, you know, trailer clean, loaded, you know, tires on bikes, new parts on bikes, kits in. We were ready to go, just in case. So I think that that's how you have to approach it. You just have to, with a team, regardless of if it's, you know, weather or a pandemic or whatever. I mean, you just have to be prepared to go at all times.
So I guess in thinking about that, in thinking about having the consumables where a race team is, I mean, you guys have plenty of partners that probably want you riding the latest, greatest of everything. So now on all of those things that you have to go back and dismount tubulars and pull components off bikes and throw away kits and like all of these other consumables from being ready to now, okay, well, now there's all of this new tech that's come out, or we have new sponsors, or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're ready to go for 2022. It's crazy that, you know, we use that opportunity to really shore up some of those relationships and, you know, and get ahead of the game. So, like, you know, Shimano came on board for the next 2 years. That contract signed. We're ready to go there. Parts are in stock, ready to be put on bikes. You know, clothing was ordered early. It was really easy because we did a little bit of a, you know, refresh last year on the kit. And so we just updated a few sponsors and whatnot. And then, you know, we were prepared when Jules wanted to go to Europe. So that worked out really well for him. So
I think that's cool, because this is the other piece of this. You guys you're like, everything's different. When we talked to you back in season 2, you had a seasoned crew for the most part, and some folks who were all working together. That you'd had some folks for a while, and there had kind of been, you know, we were telling stories with Brandon, right? Like, I remember, like, he came on the show and was talking mad smack about you and vice versa. No, I mean, he wasn't. But like, there was like this camaraderie that you guys had built as this program had grown into what it currently is now. And really, A lot of those folks have moved on, whether they graduated and decided to go on their own program, or they're just gotten older, or they've gone into different ways. Everybody's kind of gone to different places, and you've kind of got a couple holdovers, but they were kind of on the younger coming in stage. So it's like a full refresh as you get to approach this season. And I think, we know you built up those relationships, but you've built kind of the way that you operate the team. How do you now, as you start bringing in some new folks who we do want to talk about, how do you start looking at, hey, this is what I've built. Here's how I either find the right riders to join this space or learn to adapt my style to these new people. How do you approach that? Because I think that'd be my biggest concern. Like, I operate this way. I've operated this way this long. What do I do? Do I find the right people, or do I mold myself?
It's a little of both. I mean, the one thing that I think has changed a lot as I've grown up is that, I'd really try to not stop learning and not, kind of that continuous improvement thing, versus, 25 years ago, I was full of piss and vinegar and thought I knew it all. I still think I know it all, but, but I'm learning better ways, kind of each and every day. But I think one thing that we've done a really good job of over the years is finding good people, not just good racers, and being able to identify those personalities, whether it's from a professional side or, from an athlete side, has been something I think I'm pretty good at, honestly, and identifying those personalities and that work with us. And I've never once had anybody say to me, man, Adam, your rider's an asshole. It's like, no, it's quite the opposite of, that's the most genuine person I know, or the most honest person I know, or, wow, it's really cool to see how riders like Ross interact with their family, with, his brother Grant racing and everything. And they're just genuinely good people. And when I read these kind of season recaps from people like Bruce Buckley and people, see mentions in, books and stuff like that, it's that's always something that gets said about our athletes and about our program, and it's something that we kind of hang our hat on. So I think that makes it a lot easier.
So you mentioned that you have a unique ability to find that. So I think there's an intangible when you interview somebody. Like, I'm thinking about any time that I've interviewed, whether it's me doing being on one side of the table or the other side of the table, you're always
like job interview.
Yeah, you're always kind of like sussing out whether is this person the right position for what I'm looking for, or am I the right person for the position they're looking for? And you said that you have a unique ability to discover that. So what to you are some of the intangibles that you're looking for when you're first meeting somebody? Because I'm thinking of people that are going to listen to this show that may be juniors right now, that are in high school, that are fast, that are looking for what is that transition period to go from where I am racing locally to being able to, potentially position myself to transition into being a professional cyclist. And your team is kind of the best at doing that from past experience. So
yeah.
And selfishly, I want to know so that I can make you be my friend.
We're already friends, Doug.
Oh,
yeah, that was a softball.
I have the intangible.
So it's honestly, it's the three things I really look, or two things I look for, and then one that we try to work on is somebody that's humble. I mean, they're all good athletes, but it's, being able to kind of, tell the story without being arrogant, and then a respect. When they make an appointment to talk to me, I mean, we talk to athletes usually at nationals every year, and that they show up for their time, and that they're attentive, and that they know that your time is as valuable as theirs is. So I would say somebody that's humble and somebody that has that level of respect. You can't teach those things. I mean, that at 18, 19, 20 years old, it's either something you've been brought up with or something that you're just not going to ever get. And so, yeah. And then the biggest thing for me that I drive home with all of them is that they, when we're interviewing these, young athletes, is that they need to be able to communicate effectively. And that's really something that we work hard on, that they can, they need to be able to tell me, what's going on with the bike, what's going on with them personally, how they're feeling, what's going on, outside of the races, because it's all such a huge piece when you deal with young athletes. And if they can't communicate that and they just kind of go around going through the motions, you're never going to make any progress.
Yeah. You got to knock those walls down.
Yep.
Okay, so something you said there, a couple things actually you said there kind of strike a chord with me, and I'm thinking back to Doug just mentioned our conversation with Bran not that long ago, and you talked about respect, being able to communicate, and some of those intangible pieces. And I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to his second episode yet, but in it, he talked a lot about his time as one of the more senior athletes within the team, and he was very, very self-critical of himself about his position as a leader there. I kind of want to get your thoughts on where you thought he stood kind of in the scope of things at that point in terms of how he was as moving into a leadership position. And if you did have a chance to listen to that conversation, what are some of your thoughts about what he said?
No, I did listen to that conversation. I think he was pretty much spot on. I mean, Brandon will be one of the first to tell you that we have the hard conversations a lot. And
I learned how to do that from you, buddy. Or everyone he just has infinite capability to be self-critical, and that's a hard thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember being in Belgium with him, and we both knew that the time was kind of coming to an end because he just hadn't lived up to what my hope was of how he would grow into that role. And if he wasn't going to be that mentor, that we had to make space for a young athlete to come in and grow and get that opportunity. And so I think he was pretty much spot on with that. I mean, he wasn't that great mentor because I think that there was so much, he had put so many expectations on his racing performances after the year before that he had. I mean, he had won the UCI race in Boulder. He had a silver at nationals. He made the world's team. He had some podiums in Texas, and he was turning quickly into one of the best young elite racers in the United States. And then on top of that, he was part of a program in a year where, Gage was winning all the time, and Katie was winning. And, so he thought that was the next step, and he put a lot of pressure on himself to just win rather than, progress in the way that was probably right for him, which was, just getting comfortable with that mentor, role, and knowing that if he did that the team was going to continue to support him forever,
So, okay. So here's my follow-up to that is if, your assessment is what he said is correct and you feel the same, how does it feel to know that he feels it, understands it, and is now getting ready to go take out a chunk out of this world in a whole nother different space? Because when you have those hard conversations, and they are hard, they are not easy, how does it feel as someone who's been a friend and a mentor to him to see him step into that space? Because I think that's the second piece of this.
Well, yeah, we talked about that back in season 2, even that, the most rewarding part of what I do is watching the person that these kids become off the bike. I mean, Brandon, as you guys know, is a caring and super articulate, man now. And it's really cool to watch him, kind of navigate through life, because he wasn't that, when he started with the program at 18. He was
of course.
He was a snot, man. Holy moly.
Brand, sorry, we love you, Brand. But I think this is part of it, right? This is you and what you do and what this program is about. This is where your heart is actually. And I'm glad that you said that, because this is what drives you to do this. You love bikes and you love the experiences it has and the experiences it's given you, but you like how it grows people. And ultimately, whether any of your, kids win a world championship or not, that's not a measure of being a leader or someone that's mentoring people. It's seeing people go out in the world and do what's best for them and build themselves into something that's amazing.
Yeah, results aren't a measure of success.
Sure.
Like that's not, because, and you guys know this. I mean, it's like you can watch national champions and whatnot. Sure, it's a great stepping stone, and it can be a catalyst for a actual career in cycling. But we've watched national champions come and go, and it's honestly a big thing of, what am I trying to say here? It's really what happens on any given day. Like you can have, you can win or you can be 15th. I mean, we saw that last year in the U23 race. There was a couple of riders that, finished back in the teens that should have been on the podium.
Yeah, could have been on the podium for sure.
And and same thing is like somebody like Ross, where he was a kind of a dark horse for the win, and it could have definitely been on the podium, and he crashes in the collegiate race and breaks his collarbone. Does that make and then misses his last year as a U23, because of a pandemic? Does that make his development any less valuable? Absolutely not. It just changes the way of how you get there. So,
all right. So, John, you've got the list, right? Let's outline what going into this new season looks like as far as who you've brought onto the program in that space, right? So you've got a couple people staying. Lauren Zerner and Ross Elwood are back with the team, which is awesome. They've been with you this will be their third season, right? Because if you count last year.
That last year, yeah.
So
season.
Ross will be with us for the third season. Lauren's been with our program since she was like 8.
Right? But the program, right? Yeah, we know the Zerners have been engaged for quite some time.
Yeah. So Ross is back. Super stoked. That first year elite for Ross, which is similar territory to what we did with Brandon, where we expanded our U23 team to include some young elites, because honestly, when kids are in college and whatnot, so I shouldn't use that term. I should say riders, but kids, when they're in school, they're still, regardless of their age, they're still developing. So development teams like ours are the best, scenario for those riders. Lauren's back, first year U23, missed, same kind of thing, broke her hand on the last lap at GP Sven Nys, and then missed her world selection as a junior, and then pandemic year, misses second year as a junior. So she's got definitely something to prove to herself, and she's ready for it.
She's got maybe an axe to grind. She's like
a little bit of axe to grind, yeah. So she's ready for it though. And then Jules Van Kempen was with us last year, signed on pre-pandemic, and with the expectation that he would move to Colorado from North Carolina to be part of the team. I mean, it's something that we've, focused on and stuck to our guns on, that the athletes are based here. And he did so, and kind of, again, was just kind of going through the motions, training, found a new coach, was making some progress. And then, things kind of opened up in the end of the fall, and Jules has dual citizenship in the Netherlands and here. And so he was able to get over to Europe and do some racing, which was huge.
That's useful. I didn't know. That's fantastic. That's very useful, having dual citizenship. Reminder.
Yeah. So his whole family's there. He had grandparents there, and aunts and uncles and cousins and that kind of thing. And so in both Belgium and the Netherlands. So he was, that was a great opportunity for him to get some experience in, and have a supportive environment around him, because there was no U23 races. So he's lining up at, his first European, cross race, with the exception of, like he did a couple of things as a young junior. But his first real experience was an Elite World Cup, and
big boy
and he
race.
just goes over and just gets his teeth kicked in. So you need that system around you to support you. And
I didn't know you guys supplied orthodontic benefits. Groove Subaru. I mean, that's useful. That's great. You're gonna have to get on the payroll over there.
It was hard for me to not be there for that, because I really wanted to be supportive of a new rider and a young rider, but at the same time, like, it just wasn't an option. And it was, but family around him was great. So he's growing up. It's really cool to watch, and I try not to compare the riders, but it's fun to see the paths of, like, I go back and I look at a picture of Brandon in Providence when he was 18 and first year U23, and he looks like a little kid. And then you talk to him now and he's just a man. And the same thing with Jules. It's cool to see, like, he's growing up before our eyes, as cheesy as that sounds, but he's already growing up, and the next 3 to 4 or 5 years with him is going to be a ton of fun. I mean, he's a huge talent, that was kind of flying under the radar, that he ended up having undiagnosed mono, back in his second year as a junior, and kind of dropped out at Pan Ams and fell off the face of the earth. But for the rest of that season, but he, was second to Tebow at Jingle Cross, and had some top fives at some UCI races with stacked fields in Fayetteville and things like that. So we're excited about where he's going. And then new for this year was we wanted another woman after Turner decided that she wasn't going to race anymore. And it was, I made a list. When I say I made a list, and I bounced it off of Jake just to see if he had any huge objections. And he's like, no, I trust what you do. And it was Michaela from the beginning. Michaela Thompson, we wanted her from the beginning, and she was the first person we called. And I just laid it out to her. I'm like, it's your position to turn down. If you got something else lined up or you want to do something else, we'll keep looking. But she's here in Colorado. I'd watched her race locally. She had an amazing ride at Tacoma with a silver medal there as a junior. Her and Lauren always got along, so I knew the personalities would mesh, and that would be easy.
That's good.
Yeah. And she's in school at Durango, down in Durango here. So technically that's Colorado, so it counts as being here in Colorado, even though it's basically New Mexico. But
long drive. It's a long drive,
but it counts. And a long time ago, many moons ago, I went to school in Durango and had for a very short period of time, and had a great experience. And that environment down there is something truly special. Like, they have, of all the collegiate programs that I've been able to witness, like, they have something really special going on down there, and a great community to just be a part of. And so I knew that that's something that we could work with. And she's just getting stronger and stronger. She had some great mountain bike races with her mountain bike team in Arkansas, and then had an unfortunate crash in a sprint with Maddie Monroe, and they both broke their hands. But they're getting there, and she's recovering. I was just actually texting with her, and they're recovering, and she's starting to put some work in, so it'll be good. She'll be ready to go. And then we announced yesterday. I had to get it out before I came on here.
You're hearing it hot off the presses. Basically.
Yeah, we announced it yesterday that we added a fifth, and put Sam Brown on our elite team, which is a name that probably not a lot of people know, and that's okay. Sam was raced with us a little bit as a junior. I've known Sam's family for a long time. His dad owns a bike shop up in Eagle, up by where Jake lives. And they're just really good people. And back to kind of that, humbleness, that personality, how those things fit with our program. Sam was always that fit. But at the same time, like, Sam wasn't 100% committed to cross. He would, do 4 or 5 races a year locally, show up at nationals and get inside the top 10. And we're like, well, that's pretty damn good. And, or not race at all, like race the mountain bike in the fall, race high school mountain bike, and then just show up at cross, states, and here in Colorado, cross states is basically a, smaller UCI event. And he'd find himself inside the top 5, top 10. So we knew he had the talent. And it was funny when I was talking to him, I said, so Sam, who's your coach now? Like, who do you work with? And, cause I want to talk to him before we kind of go any further. And he goes, I don't have a coach. I'm like, huh? He's like, yeah, I don't have any.
Riding my bike. He's like, I like riding my bike.
So, he hooked up with, he's known Jake for a long time, being in that same valley, and he hooked up with Jake, and Jake put him on a training plan. And literally the ascension was just like this. And we powwow on Mondays after, kind of like a collegiate road race or a Pro 1-2 race here. And Jake will, tell me numbers, and I'm like, what? Like, it does. I mean, for a kid that's, 21 years old, and it just doesn't make any sense, for somebody that hasn't had a coach. And, he gets a coach, and he goes out and he's racing like collegiate Bs for Fort Lewis down Durango as well. And he goes out and he just like sweeps the first weekend. Like, well, time for an upgrade. And, and then he does that, and he finished inside the top 10, there's a race here in Colorado called Copenberg, and it's actually got a dirt hill in it. And it's a legit race. And, there's, UCI, road pros showing up to this thing, and Eric Bruner's there from, Volo on the road, and U23 cross champion and whatnot. I mean, it's a stacked field, and he's like 9th. I'm like, well, Sam's doing all right. So
let's put him on our team.
Yeah. So Sam's doing pretty good. So, and then, at the same time, he's just riding for fun, like you guys are saying. And so, he goes these enduro races, mountain bike enduro races, and he's on like the pro podium of a mountain bike enduro race. He's just got skills for days. And so we know that, with the system and other young athletes around him, and what we've proven works, and just the actual event support, that we know Sam's going to be good. And I mean, I fully expect him to come out and just shock some people this year.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I'm like, and I know Doug is as well, but I think anytime that you put that much talent together, and somebody is as good as you, but also having Jake there, to kind of corral those personalities and help keep things kind of moving in the right direction. Like I'm really excited about the future for you guys and watching what you guys do. But you said something really early on about Jules going overseas, and I kind of want to ask about this. Is it's one thing to race locally, and it sounds like Sam has like mad raw ability, and the stuff that you're talking about, I'm just like, man, that is like giving with both hands type thing of and we were talking before about how he can drop Jake on climbs and then waits for him at the top and then drops him on the descent as well. And it's like, that's saying something if you're doing that on both sides of the climb to somebody that's been doing this for so long. But when you're talking about Jules going overseas and getting his teeth kicked in, there's so many people, and I'm thinking back to like watching, 9 Ball Diaries and listening to Jonathan Page talk about you have to go overseas to experience this, to really develop your abilities. And it's something that domestically Americans have struggled with for so long. But what do you think it is about going to those races specifically and having that experience of getting your ass kicked?
Of having to call HR and be like, we have another dental claim.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We need to up the deductible on this. Yeah. But like in those scenarios, what do you think is so useful to a young rider? And I gotta believe part of it is not having too much of it and getting discouraged, right?
That just depends on the rider. I mean, there are certain riders that just feed off of that. I think that the things that you can't replicate, and it's things I've heard Paige talk about and Jeremy Powers and those kind of guys talk about. It's like, you can't replicate the course conditions over here.
For sure.
It's just like that experience is invaluable. The bigger part of it from a development side is how you handle yourself off the bike, how you get to the races, go to the grocery store. I mean, living is just different over there. And how comfortable you are with it. And that's why a rider like Jules can go over there and not just be, I mean, he was never last, in an elite World Cup. He's, we saw a progression throughout his, 7 or 8 or 10 races, whatever he did. We saw a great progression. And it's because he's got family, he's comfortable there. Riders like Gage. Gage is incredibly comfortable there. Brandon is, when we went to Belgium a couple of years ago as a team, Brandon's like, leading us around. He's my navigator, and in the van. And he's just so comfortable. He's always raced better. I mean, the year that he went to Worlds as a junior, he was like 8th at Nats in Nashville, like nothing to write home about. And he was 14th or 15th in the world, because he's technically a good rider, and he's really easy. He just fell into the life piece of that.
I think the life piece of it is an interesting, because Paige has talked about this a lot. And I think it's like the pace of life, the understanding of how to deal with all of those things. I think that's fascinating. And if Jules has this extra kind of sidecar outrigger canoe piece that he has over there, it's interesting to see that there was change in, and that he was able to fall into a rhythm because he had navigators, right? And part of what you guys have done in your program is built the fact that you understand navigating it once you're there. And that's rubbed off on the kids, and they can kind of pass that along. But outside of those specific pieces, like, do you think this is what we're missing for that next development stage, to take these, like, and it may not be achievable for everyone, but is this part of the missing link?
It's a big part of the missing link. If the goal of your program is to win world championships or be on the podium and compete at that high level.
Right, because I think everybody in cyclocross in America would be like, that's our goal, is to win world champs, right?
Yeah.
And then we're like, yeah, Katie Compton like almost has done it a million times. Like, we're real close in the women, but like maybe we got to get these guys to this space,
So yeah, yes and no. I mean, it's two things. Is that I tell the riders all the time that their main focus should be growing the popularity of the sport domestically, through their social media shares and letting people in to live vicariously through them. I
100% agree.
Because you shouldn't have to go to Europe to make a living as a cross racer or a bike racer again.
Preach.
So that's the biggest thing. The other piece of it that I tell people is that because it's just like we talked about, it's one day. Like, Danny Summerhill, who I used to work with, he was second as a junior, and nobody really, he was strong, but nobody really saw him coming as a threat for the podium. Gage, when he was first year with the program, he's fighting with Iserbeat, for that second place, and drops a chain in the last corner and ends up 4th, it's just one day. A world championship is one day. Yeah. And we've also dealt with the disappointment of riders like Turner of not getting, those world championship selections all the time. And like Jules this last year, we totally thought, when you look at the riders from other countries that got selected to worlds, we really thought that Jules deserved a selection. He did the best with what he could, and they just chose to take nobody. And so, but the point is that there's none of those things define a success. Like, if you had, I always say, if we race domestically and you got, you were on, say you won a small UCI race like Brandon won in Boulder, and you were on a podium again and a podium again, and you got a top 5 at Pan Ams, and say you were bronze at national championships, is that a successful season? I say that to the riders all the time, and they'll look at me and say, yeah. Well, if you finish 36th at Worlds or you didn't get to go to Worlds, does that change those results? No. So like the World Championships thing is awesome. And I think, like I say, to be competitive at that highest level, you definitely have to be there. But it shouldn't be the defining piece of any rider's development.
And I think that's what I was driving at, is I'm playing the devil's advocate in this situation, because the community sometimes goes, we have to go win Worlds. We're never on par with the Europeans.
It's almost hyperbole at this point.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yep. But riders like Jeremy, have shown that you don't have to, win a world championship or even be in the top 5 or top 10 to make a living doing it. And that doesn't have to, and when I talk to young athletes, the majority of them want to earn a living doing it more than they want to win a world championship.
Well, and yeah, even jumping on that a little bit is, if you think about the lasting impact of how many people has Jeremy turned on to either cycling or brought further into cycling from, I'm a cyclist and I discovered cross from watching Behind the Barriers or GCN or whatever content that he's been a part of in his career. Mm-hmm. Like, you can almost at this point
gravel a lot. He was on the gravel a lot a couple times.
Also, yeah, a couple times. That's really pinnacle for him.
Sure. No, it definitely was. We got him live.
But you can almost set some of the results aside and focus on, kind of to your point, of what's the lasting impact that you've left within the domestic cycling community, and how much kind of stoke have you kind of inspired from things that you've done, things that you've said, things that you've been a part of.
Yep. It's growing your brand. And that's what we try to help the riders with all the time, but by, working with, awesome photographers and whatnot, like Bo and Bill and Bruce and those kind of guys, and creating this awesome content for them to grow their own brand, because, like, that's the most important thing from a long-term standpoint. It's like somebody, right. I use the Ellen Noble example all the time. I mean, she's going through her issues right now and isn't finding the top step.
Race girl, right? Currently, she's killing it too.
Yeah.
Her game,
but you know what? People still tune in. She's still got her sponsors. She's still making a living and paying her bills and living a good life. So like that. And it's the same thing with our program. Like, how do we stay relevant when we're not winning 12 UCI races a year?
Right.
It's growing your brand.
Yeah. And ultimately that pays dividends as a human being, whether it's like you want to become a social media influencer, good on you. Or if you just want to figure out how to have a job interview, right? Like those are skills that replicate from that space.
Yeah, and I can respect the Ellen struggle right now, because I had a back brace very similar to that my freshman year in college after a car accident. So
that's a bad.
I saw it and I was like, oh, I remember that. I had 4 months with that guy. I'm very familiar with that. So, so Adam, you mentioned something in your last little segment that you were talking about winning UCI races, competing for World Cup podiums, World Championship podiums, like, pretty lofty goals. And I remember back to when we were kind of talking about the genesis of this program, of trying to get more kids on bikes and help them become adults, and a lot of the conversation that we had in your first episode when you were here did not focus on that level of accomplishment. And it's cool for me to hear you talk about it, because obviously the goalposts continue to move whenever you're in an endeavor like this and you continue to grow. So that's one really easy way to kind of put a pin in the board of like, okay, this is how this program has changed since I have kind of birthed it and brought it into existence. What are some of the other things at this point, from kind of an internal facing perspective, that you look at where you are now and then look back to when you started, and what your thoughts and what your goals were and aspirations were, when
you're 21 and full of vinegar and
right. Yeah. When you knew everything to now when you really don't know anything, how is the direction of this program different, and and some of the kind of put the SMART goals on the wall. Like how are those different now versus when you started?
Yeah, I mean, when we first started, I think the goal was the same of, we want to do the best we can to support these riders. I mean, it's always been about supporting the riders. Racers come first in our team and kind of what we lay out there. And so, but when I look at like how we get there now on a weekend basis of, like we have this amazing new race setup that you guys will see this fall. That's even way better than the old one.
Get rid of that annoyingly loud power washer.
No, I was just going to mention that. I'm going to bring that. We have a much quieter one, but I'm going to bring that one and just fire it up next to you guys all the time.
That's fine.
Perfect.
That's fine. We'll do.
I might donate it to Bill's Devo team, just so they use it all the time.
We'll give him a fresh 5-gallon jug of diesel fuel to put in it too.
Yeah.
So that thing works awesome. But those bikes are clean. But but like we have this amazing race setup. We work constantly on, making the equipment better and having more of it at the rider's disposal. That's the biggest thing is I can't imagine what we did, year one with 5 riders and trying to go back to that. Like, that was a stressful way of doing it. Driving across the country with all those guys crammed into a van. And not only that, but like, myself and 5 riders at times, plus, Gage's dad was with us a bunch. And then we didn't have a trailer. So all of the bikes were in 10 bikes, plus tents, plus pressure washers, plus wheels, everything crammed in this, this Sprinter size Ford Transit. I remember we had our pickle barrel that we still use of water, and we had it ratchet strapped to the ceiling, and like above the riders' heads.
Like a grenade. If you brake too hard, someone's gonna get knocked out.
all the way to Cincinnati, and then I drove with them all in that van straight through from Denver to Cincinnati. Cram full. We stayed in host housing, got in at 2 a.m. Like it was the craziest thing. And, and on top of that, we only had I think we had 5 or 6 sets of carbon wheels year one, and so we're like, girls would race. We would take the wheels off, run back to the and then put the wheels on the other bikes and take those bikes to the pit for the next race. Like we were doing I can't imagine doing that ever again because we've gotten so good at just how prepared we are and how dialed the equipment is.
Okay. I think that's a good point because that's something that's changed because as you get better at things, you build a better process, right? I love process and CI. We talked about it before, like in the green room, continuous improvement. We're all about it. And you've been doing that, right? And Here we are getting ready to go racing after a year of not racing and you making crazy hatched up plans and coming up with stuff and reorganizing your entire business, which is awesome. But we're going into a whole new season with a whole schedule that is, I don't know, not exactly convenient for someone that lives in the Rockies.
Not good for Colorado.
Right. So here you are, logistical mastermind, man, who's built this thing that is totally, and you're like, I cannot go back to this way that it was. And now your home base can very honestly not be Colorado for this season. How are you approaching this season? Like, what are you like? What is your plan?
We are stepping up. So
Cincinnati, I can rent you my garage. It's pretty big.
I was gonna say, are you gonna
price?
Yeah, are you gonna dig holes all over the Midwest and just bury parts here and there, so as you come by you can dig them up like a dog, take them with you?
So we were very fortunate to have some sponsors step up and bring even a higher level of support to the program. We had a great year in the bike shop. Thank you, Bike Boom, and invested a ton of money into this thing. And we're all in. We bought a 43-foot trailer that has RV living quarters on it. And we hired Doug Sumi, who was my assistant mechanic or head mechanic or whatever you want to call him, to be the full-time guy. He's going to drive that thing from race to race, and we are going to fly in and out like rock stars. So,
dude, I fully back this. Working in the sports car industry, this is how it works, right?
Yeah, this is coming after, like, this is going after Stu. Like, that sounds like
we've raised the bar. You wait till this thing comes out. We're working on a content piece that will come out around the start of the season, and it's bigger than anybody's ever done in cycling in general.
I'm stoked. I'm excited about that. And also just letting you know, I know how to set up a mean 86-foot awning off the back of a semi. So whenever you get there, I can be your roof guy. No problem.
Sweet, because we went and bought we went to racecanopies.com, who does all the like dragster stuff and everything. And we bought a 600 square foot extruded aluminum awning to go off the side of this thing.
I know how to set this thing up. I can do it in my sleep.
It's sweet. It's got like power run through the rafters, so no extension cords and stuff anywhere. It's dialed. Yeah. So anyway, the race setup has been upgraded. It's basically me and Doug are going to drive it to Rochester for the first race, is where we'll start our season. We won't make it to Go Cross, but we'll start in Rochester as we have for the last 5 years or 6 years. And kind of have the unveil there. And then Doug will make the rounds, and then all the way through North Carolina, which is right before Thanksgiving. We'll drive it back to Colorado at that point, have it home for a couple of weeks through Thanksgiving and whatnot, get everything kind of reloaded if need be. And then
clean the floor mat that you bring. You got to clean the floors. It's a pain. You do best with that loud power washer though.
It's got all aluminum seamless floors in it that we can just squeegee right out. And then we will load it back up and go to Pan Ams and Nationals, and then hopefully Worlds.
Wow. Okay. So outside of Doug being really excited and nerding out about the actual tech,
just like trailers I've driven.
Yes, I know. But the thing that I gleaned from that is Doug just volunteered manual labor for you, and I think you should not pass that up.
No, totally. He's going to be sitting there next to other Doug. It'll be the Doug and Doug show, driving around the east coast of the country on my tent.
I mean, unless you can foot my my hefty salary over here. But I am happy to set it up when you're in Cincinnati. I'm happy to help set up the tent.
And probably Major Taylor. Okay, it's close.
Yeah, it's not fun.
See, Doug can actually do work, and I'll go ride the course, and that's fine. Perfect. Yeah,
I'm happy you're setting up.
Okay, so I think looking at the actual schedule, I've got it pulled up here.
Yeah.
It is. I think it's important to note that it is not friendly for anyone that lives west of the Mississippi.
Sure.
You guys are obviously not that. And you kind of outlined, what it is. And I think back to, again, like watching Behind the Barriers and kind of how Stu ran his program at that point, where you had, somebody kind of dedicated to the truck and trailer and all the equipment going from, place to place during the week. And then they flew in and out as needed to kind of maintain as much normalcy, I guess, as possible. So they weren't dragging everything around. But so I guess two things, and the three of us have talked about this because we consulted you on something that we were working on a couple years ago that relates to the CX schedule nationally. But so I guess first is, how do we start to address the fact that there's so many people? Because you mentioned it earlier in the show that like Colorado State Championships are essentially like a UCI race because there's so much talent in that area. Yep. And there's so much talent on the West Coast, but yet there's not. And I know that there's a process to get a UCI race, and you have to have a race for a couple of years and be a C2 to be a C1 and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But like, it's a problem. Like, look at the real estate. Like, it's a problem that we're not actually covering, this huge swath of earth that's west of the Mississippi River. So I just kind of want to get your thoughts on what you think of it, but also two, what things can people look for or start to do to maybe remedy that?
Yeah, or where are the opportunities?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's as much as I like to bust USAC's chops, and you know, talk about the hard.
We're not into that on this podcast at all.
Talk about the hard conversations. Like I've had some, what would for many people be uncomfortable conversations with Jesse Anthony more times than not. Are you drinking a Miller Lite?
No.
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 It's now past tense.
Okay. Sorry. My dad drank those as a kid.
Wait, he drank them as a kid or when you were a kid? Because
when I was a kid.
Okay, well, I'm just very curious.
I am never not going to stop being a kid from next to a field in Ohio. I'll say that.
All right. So but like my point of that comment was, it's not a USAC thing. It's a promoter thing.
Yep.
Like literally the promoters are just sick of losing money. So the only way to alleviate that strain is a big national series sponsor or a West Coast based title sponsor that wants to do, you know, a couple of races or something like that, to where that's their key market. You know, the beauty of cyclocross is it's a kind of a blessing and a curse, is that it's a relatively small market. So somebody could come in and buy a title sponsorship for $50,000. You know how much it costs to sponsor a NASCAR. Like they're not going to get, and they're not even going to get the, you know, they won't even be the Cougar on the car, on the hood.
You'll get a B post for one race, and for anyone that's not sure, that's like the post right behind the driver's head. You'll get like a little 3x3 inch sticker for 50 G's.
Yeah. So, you know, like somebody could come in that, you know, has a passion for cycling, or more than anything, and it can't just be a passion project because they have to see a return on their investment, that sees that there's a genuine opportunity in cycling and just take a chance on it, because they've got to there's been tons of great promoters in Colorado and in, you know, on the West Coast in general that just won't do it because every UCI race loses money.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have been around it enough. You know that.
It doesn't make fiscal sense in that space. No. So it makes fiscal sense to try to keep everything in one region, even honestly, as odd as this is for a program like yours. You may have to fund on the front side, but once Doug's on the East Coast, Doug's on the East Coast. And like you have eliminated that problem. If like, and you saw this with a lot of things during the pandemic, right? They put people in bubbles. They moved all the NHL to 2 cities. They like found a way to put everyone in the same location because costs were a challenge. So if the opportunity is there, right? Like to kind of figure out how to, like, you know, leverage and put people together, it's going to make more fiscal sense. So I hear you on that. I hadn't thought about it that way. But that really would just change the barrier. If the promoters could be made whole on the West Coast and there was a reason to go there because there was a national series, then the riders would go there.
Yeah. There's great events in Washington, Oregon, California, Colorado, but you know, those promoters have been in the game for so long and put on great events because they make a little bit of money doing it. You know, if they were losing, you know, $50,000 a year, it doesn't take very long to be out of business. So
correct.
Yeah, and I think it doesn't take much for anyone that actually wants to do the work. Go to the UCI website and look up the licensing fees and the registration fees to get a C2, a C1, and just off the top, before you even add in any sort of infrastructure, you're looking at a huge sum of money just to have the privilege of having the UCI designation within your event, not even leading up to the all the things you have to do to prove that your event is UCI worthy. So
I'm grateful that we have what we have, honestly.
Right.
And I'm grateful that we figured out a way to work with each other and create a calendar that's, you know, more travel conducive and whatnot, rather than driving all the way back and forth across the country.
Right, which is what a lot of, actually, a couple of years ago, our conversations were about, of like, how do we streamline this calendar a little bit. The other piece that we ran into a couple of years ago was, you said it very casually that it would take $50,000 to be a presenting sponsor for some sort of national series.
Yep.
This is something that baffled me coming from corporate world and also coming from, motorsport world, where local racers can get $25,000 for a racing program to race on Saturday nights. But some of the conversations that we had from people that are powerful, I think, made it seem like $50,000 or $100,000 for a corporate sponsorship for a nationwide series was completely astronomical and out of the realm of possibility. What do you think about cycling specifically as like led it to that point of thinking that those sort of sponsorships are not for us? They're for other sports. They're not for us.
It's hilarious because I could, when we get together, I'll show you a text string between me and Chris McGovern talking about this. And the issue is that athletes have sold themselves short. Rather than saying, my value is I'm a 2-season athlete, I'm going to make $30,000 or $35,000 racing the road, and I'm going to make $30,000 or $35,000 racing the cross bike, and I can make $70,000 for the year, and that's an okay living. Like, sure, you're not getting rich, but you can live on that in most places in the country. What the problem is instead of sticking to those guns, everybody's like, well, there's nothing else out there. I guess I'll do it for $5,000, and now the sponsors that have been in the sport, that's the value, like that's what you're worth because you've now committed to doing it for that amount of money. Rather than we probably all would have been a little bit better off if, 6, 7, 8 years ago, when things started to kind of see this decline, post Louisville Worlds, post, behind the barrier, Trebone and Tim Johnson and all those guys racing each other and having this, huge interest in cross, we probably all should have just sat out for a year and said, is it going to, or just all gone to Europe and gotten start money then? Because now that everybody's doing it, I mean, national champions racing for, $10,000, it's just, it's really hard to go back the other way. So that's the issue. That's what we ran into is, and so, but we're living and dying by it. I mean, you go to the races and you see, the third or fourth biggest, team out there working out of a van with, with one tent and an unprofessional, look. It's like, who wants to go to the races and walk through those pits, versus I'm not a race car guy, but I will. Anytime somebody wants to go to see a car race, absolutely, I'll go and walk through the pits and check things out and
see how they organize that. I mean, so did we get to this place where it was bargaining, right? Like where it's like, well, no one wants to give me that because it's just negotiating tactics. And then people just sold themselves down because like we let our own sport not be worth as much.
Correct.
Here. Right.
Yep.
Like, this is like people reaching out to John will appreciate this. People reaching out to artists and being like, hey, can you just like help me with my website? I'll give you exposure.
It's portfolio piece, bro.
Portfolio. And it's like, no, at some point you're a professional and you deserve to be paid appropriately by sponsorship. I watched the Mountain Bike World Cup, right? And you look at the top 5 women, there were 3 Red Bull helmets in there. I guarantee all 3 of those contracts, even though like I couldn't tell you the first thing about Yana Bellamina, like she's getting a nice check from Red Bull, no doubt. That's not like whatever money. How many Red Bull helmets are flying around cyclocross?
Couple.
Not a lot, but you look at mountain bike and it's just freaking everywhere. And that check is not smaller than 5 figures for sure.
But have you been to like when you go to World Cup mountain bike races and whatnot? I mean, the race spreads are amazing.
They're amazing.
And then on top of that, websites like Pink Bike do an amazing job of promoting those racers. Like racing isn't a 4-letter word. It's okay.
Right.
And so, on top of that, you look at what, like, for example, downhillers do going into world championships, the paint jobs on the bikes, the one-offs, the custom clothing with their trade teams and their, nationality on it, like they're all that promotion, like that's what makes it worth it for sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
A cyclocross athlete, they go to worlds and they get, some cool piece written up about them. They're in full USAC stuff. Great. USAC's
Right.
paying for some of it, you know, well, the athletes paying for it too. Like they need some trade team stuff because otherwise the sponsors are going to leave the sport. They're going to go somewhere else. Like that's the biggest race of the year and they're not in our stuff. Why should I give you, why should I give you any?
I am here for this. I'm here for the new campaign is hashtag make CX like downhill. That's it. Like, just let's do it. Like, because when Loic won and won the championship and I was at Snowshoe, there was a big freaking party in the parking lot. Everybody was like, the Specialized team was their tent was basically destroyed the entire evening. It was like, there was energy around that. We gotta like unlock that in a different way.
Yeah. I mean, and the only thing that I've seen that competes with that was, when Worlds was in Kentucky, and that was because it was only that way because of the Ohio River flooding and everything getting condensed into one day. Yeah. Everybody was there. It was a huge blowout.
Right. There was it was a party.
Amazing thing to be a part of, and then, and a phone party. But yeah, we just, and that's what I'm taking kind of upon myself is trying to bring that production value up, and, we'll have some cool new bikes, this year. And, like when you come by our tent for a development team, it's dialed, like we're constantly trying to get better. And it's not just a pile of crap in the corner, with a bunch of kids sitting around kind of thing. I mean, right. And we all have to take it upon ourselves to make a better package.
That was what I was just going to say is rather than just continue to harp on what we don't have or what's wrong and how we're broken, how do we actually take steps forward? Because I think we talk about this a lot, whether it's with male racers or female racers. You have to have the poster on the wall of, I want to be like Katie Compton, or I want to be like, Jonathan Page, and go after that. But I think the same thing exists in terms of, like, Doug and I talk about this all the time. We love walking through the pits because we love when we get to Stu's setup, because that is the F1 version of what cyclocross is in America. That is the person that is continually trying to innovate and make things better and make things more dialed and set the bar for everyone else to get to.
For now.
Sure. For now.
Not anymore.
It's coming for you, Stu. I'm a little worried that we're outing this in May. Like, I'm a little worried that he might,
get some sparkly lights for it. It'd be good.
Whatever. I am in the camp that if that is a competition that everybody wants to play in, like, that's an amazing place to play. We are all here for it. But what about the people that are showing up in the van? Because that's all that, like, they rent the U-Haul van, go to the, fly to the airport, rent the van, go to the race with, the bike pack and all of that stuff, because that's all that they can afford. Like, how do we get that mindset within them to be changed and start to look more towards, okay, we all have a part to play in upping the production value? Because both of you guys know that the immediate response to that is going to be, I don't have the money to do what Adam is doing or what Steve is doing. So what is, amongst the three of us, like, what is the immediate response to those people? How can they be a part of moving that production value forward?
I had this conversation with Brandon. So we'll out a little thing here so Brandon and I are going to actually work together on his program again. I'm going to sponsor him through the studio because his vibe really fits with what we're doing here. So I've been talking to Brandon, and the story is, and the plan is, it doesn't all have to be 7/10 big. It doesn't have to be 40-foot trailers. You have to do a good job with what you have. Yeah. So, a prime example of this is what Ray Lynn was doing with that map team. Yes. Before it was the Tilford Foundation, it was just Ray Lynn, and it was one tent, and it was clean, and it was dialed, and it was, and she did a really good job of marketing herself on it. Like, that's exactly what small teams should be looking towards. You don't have to I would rather, from a production value standpoint, I would rather see, 2 really dialed 10x10s, one for rider, one for mechanic kind of thing, than 7 with a bunch of crap and torn tops and, things leaned up against the side and that nobody wants to go to, so it's about quality, not quantity. The other thing I will say is that I would love to see, like a traveling, athlete concierge thing of sorts, where if there's 5 racers out there or 6 racers out there that are making in their privateers and they're making the rounds, that, somebody has a super pro setup that transports their bikes and cleans everything and has a place for them to put it down. And it's, they pay maybe $50 a race each, kind of thing, or something like that, something nominal. And then, we get a sponsor to underwrite the rest of it. And it makes a pro piece of it. The other piece of it is, not everything has to be that level if we as a sport do a good job of promoting those that do. So instead of having, like in Cincinnati, the only place to put Stu and his monster ass setup is at the far end of the road kind of thing with all the other juniors and stuff, tents that are set up it's like that thing should be front and center, right next to us, right next to
the cul-de-sac.
Yep. Right next to us, right next to him and Kerry Werner and, whoever else that's going to be out there. Get the good setups all lined up in a row, and then, and have that be the focal point, and you have to, and then put everybody else together.
Yeah. You don't get garage space at Daytona unless you're one of the top, unless you're like racing in the actual prototypes or in the top GTs. You're not just like the lower teams are in the far garages. You need to, and I think that does help raise the game in general. But I like that you said, do the best you can with what you have, because I think this has been kind of your through line, right?
Yep.
You have started with a program that started out in a certain way and grew up through kids getting on bikes really more than anything else. And it's become this space where now we're talking about trying to figure out how you can replace my salary so I can drive cross country. But you don't get to the point where you're even contemplating that without a lot of hard graft and a lot of like movement forward and reimagining this and thinking about this every single season or anytime something throws itself at you. And I think that's been kind of our through line, is like everything since the last time we've had you on, it's been curveball after curveball, whether it was the stores and changing how that's working, or 2020 and the cross season and all of that, or even as we roll on, this is about adaptation. And I think you're doing that not only for yourself and the things that you're trying to build and bring to the community, but you're also doing this for the riders and teaching them that skill. And I think that's really, really powerful.
No, I appreciate that.
Well, I think that is the through line if we were going to look at stuff today and all getting to hang out and talk about things. And it's good. I mean, I'm actually kind of fired up for cyclocross racing. So
you should be. Racing's awesome.
Well, I wasn't last year because it didn't happen.
Yeah. And now I like the idea. We had the going back to the behind the barriers, we had the cross clash. Now we have like the toolbox clash. Like I'm looking forward to that for like
get toolbox wars on this.
Toolbox wars. Yes. I like that.
Toolbox wars on this. We can do this. We can get toolbox wars on this.
Toolbox Wars is a prime example of that, like that pushed everybody to elevate. When you look at, like my mini box that was, toolbox of the week or toolbox of the month or whatever the heck it was, and then you look at like what some of these guys are doing now, you're like, holy crap. I mean, that's the whole, like, raising the tide thing.
I want to cut a bunch of foam. I'm all like super.
Yeah, we all used to cut Kaizen foam with, utility knives, and now guys are CNC and everything, and carbon fiber this and rifle cases and, hydraulic lifters and LEDs and, that kind of stuff. And it's like, that just, but that's a prime example of something that grew totally organically just by people pushing each other to get better.
That's cool. And I think I love that about the way you've built your program and the things you're doing. So, the question we like to end things on before we got a couple AMAs and then we'll let you get about the rest of your day.
Sure.
But the most important question we need to ask you right here, what do you want the Pebbles to take home from the conversation today? And this one got you, I think, last time too, and you knew it was coming as well.
No, I think, last time I was like, I knew what I wanted to say. I just didn't always know how to say it. But it's the same. I mean, I want people to give a damn. You know, whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're the racer trying to make a world championship, or if you're the team trying to take that next level, or, you know, try to get to all the races in the country, or that promoter trying to, you know, put something in a different part of the country, just give a damn and do the best you can, and it'll happen. I mean, that's the takeaway.
I love it.
Yeah, I think it's like, what's the phrase that, like, good is the enemy of great? Like,
yep.
If you continually strive, like, well, I'm not going to do it unless it's perfect, or why would I do it, you know, 90%? It's like, well, you're 90% further than you were like a day ago. Like, for where we are, good is great. Like,
yeah.
and I love that as a push, and because it not only challenges the folks like Stu and the larger programs that are out there that have decent funding, but it also challenges, like, okay, what can you do with your one bike and two sets of wheels, or like your local team, like
your in the woods.
Yeah, like Pebbles, your local team that you ride for, if you race bikes, like, what can you do at every event that your team shows up to make it look more pro and to make it look more legitimate? So it's not just we got a tent, or we work out of Doug's car and everyone just like throws their stuff in Doug's car and he like clicks the lock and we go race and then we get done and we leave. Like, but you're not you're not setting an example for everyone else in the community. Like, I love that just as a consistent challenge of how can you do more with what you have, because you can. You always can.
You just got to work harder. I mean, that's the big thing.
I like napping. Is that okay?
If you're on John's team, you can nap all you want.
Man, like, he had a great job interview going, and then
I just ruined it. I ruined my job interview.
Yeah.
Hey, you can nap when the rig's parked. Napping's allowed.
Or if you're not the one driving, you can nap. Like,
Tuesday nights. Tuesdays are good for naps. I mean, usually maybe Wednesday. By Thursday, you're getting everything set up again.
Right.
So
yeah,
this is how this works. This is how this works. Well, awesome. Always a huge thanks to all of you, Pebbles, old and new, whether you're just joining us because you happen to know Adam and Alpha and the whole crew. This is the first time listening to us. We hope you go back and listen to all of our shows. Thank you for all of your support, whether you've been here since the beginning or just joining us now. Make sure to subscribe, click the like button, follow us on Twitch, visit thegravelot.com, and get all of the awesome shows that we have in the crew, whether that is Girls Moving Mountains tomorrow morning or yesterday. Time is a flat circle. No matter what time you're listening to this, go check out the new GMM show. Super awesome. Rebecca Rush is on the show. Unbelievably good show.
Yeah.
Very, very stoked for that. Check out the new Bike Shop show. So much good stuff. We're working on some cool concepts with some cool ideas that I suggested in their Discord. So you should go check out that. And if you want to be an awesome Pebble, as we said before, and help us find some awesome new guests, send us your folks, send us requests, call us at 513 400 5577 45577.
400.
I got it right.
You got it right. You're right.
Hey, it's only taking me 6 weeks to memorize it.
It's fine.
There you go. I got to put one of those signs like I'm actually in, like, the call 513 400.
Yeah, we'll get you a teleprompter, but we're going to need some more funding for the teleprompter.
I'll have to find one of those funders for our kids.
Okay, so for everyone out there, consider this your last kind of warning for the comments. Leave the comments for Adam if you have a question you want him to answer. Go ahead and get those submitted now if you've been thinking about them and haven't typed them. Like, what are you waiting for? There's some that have come through. So, and as Doug said, if you guys want to be a Super Pebble, if you want to suggest upcoming guests, we're looking for women, people of color, people like that don't look like the three of us. Like, we're pretty well covered, and we're good. We've heard the feedback that you guys are tired of seeing people that look like us. Like, it's
look like Doug, thank God.
Yeah, well,
thank
I'm
you.
glad that no one looks like me.
I'm so glad that I have somebody else that can, like, jump on this bandwagon, because it makes me feel validated in my opinions. It's nice.
I don't care about your opinions. All I care about is Ellen's opinion, John.
It's no.
That's all we care about too. We like Ellen way more than we like you.
That's true. I'm sure.
Wow, we're getting sharp here at the end. All right, so Um, if you guys want to go be Patreon supporters, that would be amazing. You don't have to, because we're gonna keep making this stuff. We're gonna keep making new things. Obviously, we have a bunch of stuff on Patreon for the people that are Patreon supporters. But in addition to them supporting our show, we have some amazing partners that we have been with for multiple years now that we encourage you guys to go to. The links are in the show notes for all of this. If you guys want to go click, follow through, use the discount codes, just engage with these folks, because they are making amazing products. One, because we wouldn't be supporting them if they weren't amazing products, but they are also helping us continue to make this thing for you guys. So go thank them by purchasing their products.
And absolutely, if you are still trying to get ready for cyclocross season 2021 to 22, go reach out to bfrbcycling.com and make sure you hit them up for your custom kit orders for your team or whoever you're looking with. We've been working with them for several years. Love their equipment, love their gear. All thanks to our buddy Adam. I'm loaded up for team kit for the summer, get ready to thrash and look cool and be comfortable, because BFRB does an amazing job with all that. All the team over there is fantastic. So make sure you check out their website, bfrbcycling.com. See how you can get outfitted with the apparel that you and your team need as we roll into the new year.
Oh, hey, Doug, I forgot to tell you. You know how I told you that we got a special delivery the other day?
Yeah. What's that?
It was from Dan and Grimper Brothers Coffee.
Ah, Dan.
So I have 2 bags of coffee for you.
Yes.
So that alone should be enough for you guys to go to grimporbrothers.com now. Go purchase some of Dan's small batch hand roasted coffee. He personally selects the beans. He personally roasts them himself in his house. And then when he sends them out, he writes love notes on the U.S. Postal Service packaging for you, letting you know how much you mean to him. The other cool thing about what Dan does is that every single one of his blends has a specific purpose. So no matter what the type of bean or the type of roast that you're looking for, go to grimperbrothers.com now. Go through the actual roasts and then read through what some of the proceeds from that purchase will go to. Some of it's athletes, some of it's events, some of it's just causes, but it is the perfect example of putting your money where your mouth is. So Dan is an amazing person. Grimper Brothers is an amazing product. I had some this morning, and I've been drinking mediocre coffee recently.
You're not allowed to do that.
And because I ran out, but just going back to Grimper Brothers Coffee, I'm like, oh yeah, this is
reminds you.
This is like, not only is this better tasting, but I was like, oh, I'm a lot more high functioning right now.
That's how it works.
So again, head to grimperbrothers.com now, and be sure to, if you are a coffee drinker, get into the subscription service, because you will get a free bag of amazing coffee. Just go do it, because you'll continue to get new coffee coming to you every month.
And also a massive thanks to our friend Mitch, where we first met our friend Adam at Mitch's shop at BioWheels Fit Studio right here in Cincinnati. Mitch has the best fits in the neighborhood, Midwest. He is renowned for his fitting in the area. People travel all over the... What'd you say, John?
Neighborhood.
It's like a burrito the way you said
it. If you're either going to go to
here, I got you. Here you go. I know you like burritos and tacos. If you've been waiting for that one taco that would just solve all your problems and issues, come to Mitch at BioWheels Fit Studio. That he will put you on the retool and then hand you a carnitas taco that will blow your socks off, and then he'll put your feet back in your socks and put your shoes on and get you retool fit again. It's just that awesome. We've been working with Mitch for years. Mitch has done my fits, John's fits, and yes, this is where we met Adam. So make sure you check Mitch out. Full host of bikes coming in. He knows exactly what's coming off the boat as soon as it's going to get to him. So if you're looking for a bike in your Midwest, you need to check out Mitch at BioWheels Fit Studio.
I feel like we need a lawyer to make like claims on all of our ad reads.
No. We're good.
Like,
it's a comedy podcast, John.
Right. The claims listed in this ad roll have not been verified by BioWheels Fit Studio. We are also supported by the Ritual All Natural Skincare, providing small batch handmade shaming cream made right here in Cincinnati, Ohio. All of the items that are going into it are all natural ingredients. So think vegetable oils, all natural butters, essential oils, things like that. And the coolest thing about what they are doing is they are allowing you to decide specifically how you want it to smell and whether you want menthol in it or not. And you get to design your own label for the bottles as well, or for the tubs, I guess, more appropriately. So it is a truly custom. So if you're somebody that cares about having the custom kit, match the socks, match the bike, match the shoes, go get the custom chamois cream from the Ritual All Natural Skincare. You can send us a note in however you want to, from the website, from any of the social media forms, in the contact form here during the live stream. Whatever you want to do, get in touch with us, and we will put you in contact with the Ritual All Natural Skincare so you can order yours today.
Absolutely. And also a massive thanks to our good friends at Hand Up Gloves. Been with us since the dawn of time. Thank you. You have been amazing supporters of us. It is officially jorts season. So if you do not have stretchy jorts that you can A, ride your bike in, or B, just chill around your house in, like I always do, you need to go to Hand Up Gloves and get some jorts promptly. They have many different washes, and they are very good and very soft. Get jorts. They look cool. Go visit Hand Up Gloves, but do that through the link in our show notes so that you can then enter code $HANDUP at checkout, so you make sure you save yourself 10% off everything in store.
$HANDUP, what?
Oh, wait, $.
Pebble $sign?
Sorry, Pebble $. Just my brain has...
Doug's broke. We made you list the phone number off a couple too many times, and it just like defragged everything.
Dude, you know I'm bad with numbers after all the TBI.
Yeah, but to be fair, you were really caught up in George's conversation, and I was watching Adam laugh at you while doing it.
Real excited about George.
I could be your teleprompter.
Adam, hold up the ad read. Even though I have this document to my
I'll do this.
Right. Just distracts me more. This is my ADHD. Hard at work.
Oh man!
You set up my tent. I'll hold up the piece of paper for you.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. It's code Pebble $.
There it is.
100%.
There it is. Yes. All right. So we've said it before. We're gonna say it again. We love hearing from you guys. We love hearing your comments, your feedback, whether it's good, bad, indifferent. Subscribe to all the social feeds on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, LinkedIn, YouTube. I think that's all of them. Streamlabs. You can become a Patreon member. All of this is housed at thegravelot.com. And addition this week, I actually, my wife, I have to thank my wife for the Linktree recommendation. So I've been adding the Linktree to all of our social feeds. So it's the little link where you can click on it and it'll go to, like, you can go to our Patreon, you can go to our website, you can go to all the other podcasts that we have.
Our link is in our bio. Just go find that.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is the link to end all other links. It is the unicorn link for the Gravel Lot. So it'll take you anywhere you want to go. So just engage with us. Again, leave your comments, send us your feedback, send us your guest ideas, all of those things. We love hearing that kind of stuff from you guys.
Absolutely. Our new and outro music is from Wataboy, so make sure to go check out him and listen to all the tunes he has. Always good stuff. Thanks to him for all the music. And go to the link in the show notes or SoundCloud and search for Wataboy, WATABOI. Awesome jams. So we've got a few AMA questions. Are we good? You ready to rock them? Okay. Adam says yes. This one is a good one, and I'm curious who asked it, but I will get that report later. Because it could be really funny. It's got lots of ideas. So what makes Katie Klaus so good that the casual fan cannot see? Like, what is the secret sauce?
I mean, it's obvious to go out, you win races. That's obvious.
This does stuff, but like you worked with her for a long time. What makes her? What's the secret sauce there?
The secret sauce to her winning, or the secret sauce to her being a good person?
It just says so good. It doesn't say either one. So maybe you can answer whichever one you wish.
Or both.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the big thing with Katie and results is that, she's really she's pretty goofy. And she's able to kind of stay relatively low stress, kind of pre-race and whatnot. That I think, I mean, she was always just finding her, her comfortable spot in the tent and whatnot. I mean, I just think back to as you were reading that question, I was trying to figure out how to verbalize a picture that Bo took, and she's like singing into her water bottle before a race. And it was like, she was just always, really even keeled and whatnot. And then, when the whistle blows, she can just turn herself inside out. Like she just shuts off everything around her and just does the job,
Can
but
can you train that? I'm curious. Like having worked with so many kids of varying abilities, is that something that is teachable, or is that something you just kind of binarily have or don't have?
I don't think you can teach that particular trait, but at the same time, I don't think that that's as important of a trait for everybody.
Sure.
Like the ability to, what works for a lot of people is when they reach that uncomfortable state that they get smoother, especially on the cross bike, and if you can make that transition from dig yourself into a deep physical hole, and then get smooth, then, you can achieve that same level of success, I think, on certain courses for sure.
It's just different for everybody, but I do find it interesting. It's like, you're one of those people that's like, hold on, dark place.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely have seen Katie turn herself inside out on more than one occasion, and it's a pretty crazy thing to see, because then you talk to her outside of the course tape, and she's generally a pretty happy-go-lucky person.
Totally just like
Yeah.
having a good old time, and I appreciate.
Yeah, I am always. I don't know if it's partially impressed, jealous, and sometimes kind of intimidated by people that can be that calm before their race, and almost just like, not that it's not aware of the situation or the gravity of what's going on, but just like completely at ease with the pressure, and whether it's external or internal, like, because it's something that I've always struggled with nerves.
We worked through some kind of
events.
we worked through some kind of key phrases with her, to like talk her off the ledge when you did get to that point, because everybody gets to that point at some point. But yeah, I mean, I watching people be as relaxed on the start line as she was, and still be focused and be able to do the job. I mean, Lauren's the other one that reminds me of that same thing. I mean, she can do the same thing. She's goofy as hell on the start line, and then, whistle blows and she just rips people's legs off.
Yeah, I'm John and I can't even calm ourselves down before a Cat 4 race. So that basically explains where our brains are at. Not at all in that space.
It's just so damn important.
Right.
I'm coming out to those races this year. I'm going to I'm going to bring the whole setup to the pit for you guys, just to create more stress. Do you think I'm here at 8:00 in the morning to watch you finish dead last?
DFL, that'll probably motivate me. It's like being yelled at by my old wrestling coach. That's crazy.
We'll just go to the opposite side of the course and just crawl under the course tape. Like, I'm not riding by him again.
God.
I'm not going
Park
over there.
Park over there. We can escape. That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Okay. All right. So this one I can relate to, because I've watched my wife as an admissions and marketing kind of leader at her college deal with this one. With a new generation, Gen Y and Z coming in. So have you had to adapt to Gen Z kids, or are kids just kids regardless of their generation?
That's a good one. Wow. So
because it is like, this is where, like, I kind of bring some of my personal experience to it, is like,
yes.
the next generation of kids is very different than we were. Yes. In terms of what their exposures were and what their kind of empathy level is for the rest of the world. Like, makes me hopeful for the future.
So two things. I think that more than a generational issue is the fact that I'm getting older. And so the gap is becoming wider. I used to say, when it was, Gage and Katie and Brandon and Evan and Ashley on the team, that first year or two, and even when Turner came on, I remember having the conversation with her father on, and saying, the reason that I can communicate with your kid better than you can, and that they listen to me better, is because I'm closer to their age than you are. And every year that becomes less of the fact when I bring on younger kids and I get older. So more than a generational issue, I think that becomes an issue. But I just turned 40. So it's still, like, in comparison with some of these kids who their parents are 60, like or 55, like that's a big difference.
And you have two young kids.
I do have two young kids. Like I say, it's not as easy. But the other piece of it is, I think from my standpoint, I try really hard to just talk to the riders, not as kids and mentor, just as a person, and learn about what's going on in their lives and how it's different than it was when I was a kid. And it's funny, when we used to drive across the country, I would tell them stories about when I was, 16, 17, 18, 19 years old. And, Doug, I've heard you say things to Brandon as well. It's like, it was just a different time. And, even though it was a different time, we all did stupid shit, and it's okay to do stupid things once in a while, as long as you don't do them at the most inopportune time and you learn from them,
right.
Don't make the same mistake over and over and over and over. But if you go to a concert and have a beer and get caught doing it, well, we all did it. It's not the end of the world. If you get caught slamming a 6-pack the night before a World Cup, yeah, probably an issue,
Probably Chad.
So, I mean, that's the thing, is that I've never hidden, just like I approach things or plan on approaching things with my kids. I mean, they're just 6 now, so it's not, there yet, but it's like, I'm going to tell them all that, I made these mistakes and hopefully you don't make the same exact ones. There's no holier than thou on our team. And like I say, I try really hard to just talk to them and listen about what they're, going through. And so that, I think, brings the generational gap down, rather than saying, this is the way it was 30 years ago when I was a kid, you're going to do it this way, and it's like, well, no, the world's a different place. We can't take that approach.
And that, like you said, that erases the idea of generations, like how it was different for you versus you're just talking about what's going on between their ears or what's going on in their life, and then calibrating appropriately based on your own experiences. Like, that doesn't play into, well, we had corded phones and you've grown up with smartphones. It doesn't matter.
You don't know what a cassette is, right? Like,
well, they do, but it's different. Theirs is different.
Yeah, right. You don't know what a single is.
There you go.
Right. But it is interesting, because I think all three of us just don't approach life that way, and we're always looking for the human connection in that space. And I think that's good, because what you're doing, in addition to trying to figure out how to relate to them, is giving them the experience that there is no one that you can't learn from or have a conversation with if you're actually curious about who they are and where they're at, right? You're giving them the ability to understand that they can talk to people who are older than them or younger than them and still learn from that space. And I think that's helpful. And whether it's helping you to just be able to bridge that gap, it's also helpful for them to understand that that's an okay way to be as a person, instead of be like, I don't understand that.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing to grow through. All right. So speaking of kids, you have created some legendary children's bikes in the past, very recent era.
I thought you were going to say legendary children.
Well, that too.
I mean, yeah.
Come on, look where they're coming from.
No, we have no problem with humbleness, at least on this part of the call.
I have to balance it out. I look for humble riders so that I can be like we'll meet somewhere in the middle.
I understand. Trust me. You got to be the lead singer, buddy. I get you. I'm with you. But with that, you did create some awesome children, and they needed bikes, and we're in this odd situation. How did this Radivist featured bike build that you accidentally walked into happen? Well, like, you made some awesome bikes for your kids. Tell us about it.
We didn't accidentally walk into it. It was strategic, but basically that we just couldn't get any kids bikes. And at the same time, my kids were micro preemies when they were born. So they've always been on the small end of the growth curve, and they just couldn't fit a normal 20-inch wheel bike. And so, we knew that the frame had to be custom. It was a project that Chris McGovern and I had kind of been brainstorming on, but with all the shortages and whatnot, it ended up where it was just outside of the scope of what he could get done. So I mean, it was kind of like a dream team of who's who in creating these custom bikes. I mean, I had Chris involved in it. Whit from Merriweather actually fabricated the frames and the forks. He's won a bunch of NABS awards and whatnot, is really renowned for making, super high quality stuff. Chris Namba from Squid, cut a bunch of vinyl for him and supplied some sprayed out bikes. So we did a big art project in the backyard and taught him how to, spray paint it all and everything. And,
this is six. The most important thing you learn how to do is paint graffiti.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Daddy did something different when he was spray paint when he was your age.
Skills. Teaching life skills.
But no, they were. I mean, it was super cool. I mean, and they were really involved in the process. They don't realize because they're 6, that how expensive their bikes probably are. but at the same time, they are very, very proud of them because the masking for the sprayed out bike is on Hannah's bike. It is llamas and flowers, and on Abby's bike, it's bunnies and hearts. And so this is what Namba cut out of vinyl for us. And so they picked out what they wanted those designs to be. They picked out the colors on the sprayed out bike website. They helped me spray paint them. If you guys followed our Instagram stories and whatnot, you can, follow the process of them actually painting their own bike. They picked out, all that stuff, and they're super proud of them. And it's really cool for me to, one, have them included in it. We had as much of a conversation as you can have with a 6-year-old about, handmade products and how they last a long time and last forever, and, take care of your stuff and it'll last a long time and it'll serve you well. And so, yeah, it was, and then, the team had all this sweet equipment kind of that was left over. And when we re-signed our deal with Shimano for the next 2 years, we got new equipment. And so it was a way me and my wife made a contribution to the team and bought some used parts, and were able to, help the team out and grow our budget in that way too. So super cool project all around. Yeah. And it back to your Radavis comment, is everybody just, kind of took notice. I mean, Shimano put an article up, and, Radavis shared it, and this and that and that. It's last time I looked, I have a buddy who does social media analytics, and he did some tracking on it, and it's got 200,000 impressions on that.
Not bad for some kids' bikes.
Yeah,
but not bad to stay relevant, or as an attempt to stay relevant in a hard season. So,
but even then, here's the thing, what does it say that you stay relevant with a thing that's so near and dear to your heart? I know this program is as well, but look, that's the content we're all looking for. We want to see kids being happy on bikes because that's what we resonate with. You know?
Well, and something like that, Doug, to your point, I think the thing that I connect with on that is it is something that you're doing purely because you care about all of those things. You care about handmade frames. You care about getting your kids on the right bikes, and then also having to make sure that you have all of the perfect, kit for them. You're just, everything about it is this is exactly how I want to build this, and I want them to be involved in it just as much as me being involved in it, so we can do it together and build memories. Anything that happened on social media is an added bonus, instead of the influencer mentality of I need to do this really fake ass stuff so people think that I'm rad, but it's really a mile wide and an inch deep. Whereas this is, yes, it's cool to say that it's 200,000 impressions, but I would imagine that that's really low on your list of. It was never. It was
when I wrote the article, the little write up on it, I posted it on our website originally on the shop's website, because I'm I mean, if anybody wants to read about it, it's there. But maybe right. A few hundred people who read it, and now it's just
But that's what I'm saying. That wasn't the intent, but the way we connect with that, right, is so important.
It was genuine, and that's the biggest thing. And that's what, back to the team and the young riders and the athletes, is I always tell them to be genuine, and it'll all come around. I don't care if you post once a week or once a day or once a month. If it's genuine, that's better than, posting every hour and just going, like you were saying, trying to be the influencer.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. We got enough of those.
Yeah.
We got enough people trying to get sponsored by Red Bull.
Yeah. or sponsored by anyone, or building a brand out of basically vaporware. Drives me crazy. At any rate. So, well, dude, this has been an absolute blast. Like, Adam, we have missed you in this past year. We did not get to see you in Cincinnati as we always do, or chase you to Indianapolis if we could. But we are stoked and expecting that we will get to see you this fall, and are fired up as hell for it. Pebbles, thanks for joining us, everybody. This has been awesome. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
So, Pebbles, that is all for this week. So be sure to subscribe, follow, and engage, because as you know, decisions and trails are made by those who show up. So if we don't see you on the trails this week, we will see y'all next time. Bye, John.
Bye, Doug.
Thank you.